So here I've got a new story that I started. Really just the initial message I sent to it, and it's responded once. But I went to the planner agent. I selected the O3 model, and then I just kind of gave it a brain dump. Told it that I wanted a children's story about a clumsy ant named Jerry. I wanted it to be informational and true to how ants actually live and stuff like that. That it should be for around children 6 to 10. And then I went ahead and just kind of described out just the idea, the general idea I had, an overview, high level, that kind of covers, that he was an ant, clumsy ant, that the queen basically sent off on his lone mission after promoting him, and he runs into different characters along the way in search of food. And then he's supposed to respond back or get back with the colony if he finds food. But it was basically just a way for the queen to kind of kick him out because he's so clumsy and makes more work than he does solve problems as a worker ant. So um, I sent that to the planner agent. Of course, the planner agent tells me, it's a great idea. So, but it also goes into telling me that, or pretty much listing everything out about the story that I communicated, but in a much better way, filling in blanks, things like that. It outlines the protagonist and goes into other key characters, um, which they all sound great. The setting map, kid friendly zones, plot skeleton, uh, educational bits, vocabulary strategy, length and format. It's asking me some questions to kind of clarify some things in the direction. So I'm going to take a minute to go through here and answer these and confirm that some of them I like and that I don't really want any changes, but then I will start again here. All right, so I responded back and just basically reinforced what it said here. I said, sounds good. These are other key characters, sound good. um, I also just kind of reinforced the idea of weaving in educational bits and having a good vocabulary strategy. Um, yeah, and I sent that back and it just created the plan for me. And this is the plan here. I went to the planner tab, selected this one that it just created, and it highlights it here in the middle panel. And it goes through, it highlights everything really well that we went through. All the characters are here. It goes into Jerry and his visual traits, his personality, weakness, hidden strengths, goal. I didn't come up with any of this. I basically came up with it based on what I was kind of describing to it in my overall story structure that brain dump, that initial brain dump. But all the supporting characters and their roles, their motivation, and again, this is a children's story, so it's taking all that into account and applying that here. And then it goes into the settings where the different areas, kind of the world views. You could build this out further. I'm probably not going to because it's not that detailed of a book, but you could continue planning as much as you want on these and building off of it with more global plans or scope plans, either one. But the plot structure is here where it goes into colony life, Jerry's latest disaster, where the queen promotes him. Act 2 is Jerry's journey through consecutive zones. So the different areas that we highlighted here in the settings. Act 3, the Garden of Giants. This is where the food is. So, but it highlights the chapters then, And again, these are just kind of the structure, the bones. So as we start writing each scope plan for different scenes or different chapters, we can build on each of these and make them as long as we want, or we can make them one scene each. However you want to go about that, but it allows for kind of a dynamic story building process. But this is just a global plan that gets included with every response. So it's important to kind of detail things out the best you can in your scope or your global plans. And that way, when you include a scope plan to the AI agent, it already has a good understanding of your global plans because those are always included, and it'll help you plan out better. But what's really cool about this plan that it just created for me too is it goes into educational strategy. So the method, describe behavior or objects first, then introduce correct scientific term and context, gives an example of that, gives some example target vocabulary, different things, exoskeleton, mandibles, aphids, antenna, things that a kid may not know, and would help if they had kind of a description before they kind of learn what the word is, and how to use it correctly. But then it goes into some scientific facts to cover. So the ant caste system, queen, workers, scouts, the pheromone communication and scent trails, ant strength versus body weight, surface tension and ant rafts, aphid herding and honeydew collection, which I really found that kind of cool. But just because I looked into that beforehand, but pollination, role of bees, spider silk trapping strategy. So it's really cool. It kind of encompasses everything that I initially dumped in, but I didn't come up with any of this. I just kind of brain dumped my initial idea that it was a children's story and that I wanted it to be kind of educational and stuff. So this is pretty solid for a first foundational plan. So I'm going to go ahead and run with this and plan out the first scene. First scene, I think, is the next step. So I'll do that now. All right, so I went ahead and asked the planner agent after I cleared the chat here to go ahead and help me plan out the first scene. So it came back and said absolutely, and gave me a few different clarifying points, but it was really pretty straightforward. It just wanted me to clarify a couple things, so I went through and answered those 5 points here. It came back with kind of an overview of what the scene was about, details and all of that, the beat by beat flow. It all sounded good to me. I did make a slight suggestion on what the chain reaction was here, for Jerry's kind of first mishap to happen in the colony. But after I sent that, it went ahead and created this plan over here. This is the first one we created. This is the scene that we just created here. So it's pretty detailed and it did pretty well. Establishes the purpose, the location, sensory details, characters present, props, educational focus, beat outline. It goes into the emotional tone, which I thought was kind of cool. 70% comedy, 30% sympathy. Different links to themes, and then the outcome. I don't know if I mentioned it, but the educational focus. So it's going to focus on the caste system, the queen, workers, nurses, soldiers, scouts, and also the pheromone trails as scent highways that organize colony traffic. So it's weaving in this educational bit, just like we defined in our global plan here. And that was all just started from, can you help me plan out the first scene? So pretty cool. I got a good foundation here now. I think I'll try and write this out. Maybe I'll try 2,000 words or something like that. Okay, so I went ahead and asked the writer agent to write out this first plan. So first I made sure it was selected, and then I went over to the writer agent and I sent a simple message of, can you write this first scene in about 2,000 words? Sent that out and it wrote it out in about 2,100 words. Um, and I can access that here in the story editor. I just got done reading through it, so but basically the story text here that it wrote out is listed here in the story editor, but on the left side here it gives you kind of a overview or summary of that text, and as you keep adding more over here on this story tab on the left panel, there will be more story segments that are added here. But so I can go through here, read. I got a few options. I can edit this, go in here and edit anything. I can look at the summary. I can also look at the summary over here if I click this button. And what this is actually the summary of this written out text, but it does it in the perspective of like a reader and what they would remember about your story, the different character arcs, key events, unresolved questions, just an overall summary. Just it really encompasses what the text is without having to weigh the AI down with all of the text itself. This helps the planner and writer understand and keep coherence through your story structure. But in this case, this one was 2,100 words. I noticed at the bottom here that it added in, but that, dear reader, is a story for the next chapter. I don't really want that in here, so I'm going to scroll back up to the top. Need to make an easier way to do this, but scroll back down here and just remove that part. The rest of it sounded good, so I'll leave that how it is. And then got out of the editor. I also noticed something down here at the bottom. Chitinous carapace, pattern like mahogany marble, when talking about the queen. I'm not real sure what that is, so I'm just going to go to the rewriter and say, what is a chitinous carapace? Can you describe that to the reader better? I'm afraid the reader won't understand what that is. Try that. We'll see what it comes up with here. It's thinking, it's using the O3 model. So instead of at the far end, on a mound of soft petals, sat Queen Augusta, large, regal, her chitinous carapace patterned like mahogany marble. 4 attending aides flanked her, antenna poised like quills ready to record decrees. So instead of that, it came up with, at the far end, on a mound of soft petals, sat Queen Augusta, large, regal, her shell of hardened chitin, the glossy, beetle-strong armor that passes for skin, gleaming like mahogany, streaked with pale marble. 4 attending aides flanked her, antenna poised like quills ready to record decree. I think that works pretty good. I'm going to go with that. So it just added that in there. Before I go too much further, I'm going to go ahead and give this story a title, Jerry the Ant. Okay. And I've got a picture for a cover photo made by ChatGPT. that is just this. And that comes in handy when we go to export the story now to like EPUB or DocX or PDF. You can include that for the cover story, and for like an EPUB, it's formatted. For example, you can put in the keywords, genre, your book description, so like the back of the book blurb, which I've had the planner agent assist me in writing those out, and it works really well because it knows your story from all the summaries. But then you can export that. But yeah, for now, I've got Jerry the Ant, I've got my cover story, I've got the first scene, I've got a few plans here written out, and I'm going to go ahead and save this. Before I do though, there's one thing that I haven't mentioned is the balance information here. I've got 5,462 credits. I spent like $6 to get that. I've already used about 182 writing out these plans in this first 2,105 words for the story. And the last one I did, which was writing the 2,100 words out, cost me about 79 of those total used credits so far. So it gives you an idea of what your credit usage is and how you can kind of track it. And there's also a feature where you can come here and you can reset the used credits, so it's kind of like an odometer. If you wanted to track how much you're putting into a current story or something like that, you can do that, and it'll reset to 0 and start counting up from there. Alright, picking up where we left off with scene 1, I went ahead and made a plan for scene 2. I started with just, can you help me plan out the next scene, picking up where we left off with Jerry getting ready to go talk with the Queen and getting promoted to Scout. It came back with several points, more or less just outlining what it came up with, and I went through, responded to that, asking it to tweak a few things. It came back and gave me a refined rough draft, which I approved after giving it a couple more slight adjustment or instructions. It created a plan about 403 words long, and that's what we're looking at here in the center panel. You can click it here. This is the first plan, our first scene, plan for the scene 1, and the plan for the second scene. And if you remember what it's basically going by right now, and I'm guiding it as we go, but the first one was introducing Jerry, his clumsiness, and his life inside the colony, end with a big mishap. It did that well, and now he's having to report to the Queen in chapter 2, and she basically banishes him in a way, but assigns him to a scout. So if we go back to this plan that we just created for scene 2, this is actually where she's going to banish him in a sense, and it covers all the emotional tones, the setting, the royal throne, the nursery chamber beneath the cracked paving stone. Goes into the sensory details, which is pretty cool. The beats for the entire scene, it lays out, and everything gets filled in. You know, the blanks get filled in by the writer agent, but it kind of gives it the bones here in this plan. And what's cool too, the educational focus, again, the Queen Ant's egg laying rule, up to 1,000 eggs per day. You know, the caste differences, worker versus scout versus soldier. So it's adding some cool educational bits in there. Again, it has a vocabulary strategy, characters present, links to themes. Sorry about that. But if you want to see kind of where it weaved in some of this educational focus, we can go over to the story tab and to the story tab. Here we go. And this is the second scene that it wrote out. And all I did was ask the writer agent, after selecting the plan, was can you write this scene out in about 1,500 words? And this is what it came up with. And it is pretty good. So I'm going to keep it. I don't think I need to adjust anything. But one thing that, if you notice, there's a green outline around this. What that means is that the AI has linked this plan to a story segment, this one particular. So if I go here and click this button, I can go to that accidental ascension, which is this right here. And if it fails to link it, we can manually link it. So this one didn't link. It was supposed to link to the first scene, so I'm going to go ahead and link that, and now that one's got a green border around it telling me that it's linked. And what that allows me to do now is kind of filter these, so I don't have a ton of plans and I don't have to delete them as I go. I can just kind of filter them, and new plans will show up here until they're actually linked, and it kind of gives me a visual to follow along with the story without getting mixed up in all the plans as the story gets longer. But yeah, to show how it weaved in some of the educational focus, I'll go over here to the story plan and just, there we go, hundreds. So each day, nurses soaked the petals in honeydew, then fed the sticky droplets to the queen so she could keep laying eggs. Hundreds, sometimes more than 1,000 on her busiest shift. So it weaves that kind of educational bit into the story. And this is all just from me planning. And again, everyone's story is going to be different. So, you know, you can have it intertwine whatever you want. You can go crazy on the world building. And it keeps that cohesion and builds your story around these global plans and scoped plans that you create. And just to touch, we've with that writing of 1,644 words, we're now at 335 tokens or credits used so far. And again, you get 500 free, so we're still under that balance. And we've got 2 segments or 2 chapters of this kind of children's book written out. So I'll continue from here, and I'll write out the second next, or the third, I mean, and eventually I'll probably organize these into chapters to match more of the original global plan here of the chapter outline. But for now, I'm going to keep it like it is. I'm going to go ahead and save and continue on. All right, so I went through and I planned the third scene, which is the tall grass jungle first step scene. I started, just said, can you help me plan out the scene, tall grass jungle? I really wanted to paint a picture of the grand scale of everything compared to Jerry. You know, just because I feel like it's hard for a human to kind of imagine that scale difference properly, so I really want to paint a picture. It came back with kind of a few things for me to clarify. I went ahead and clarified those. I wanted to give it a wide-eyed wonder tone, which it kind of suggested. Just answered a few things here. I don't want to go back and reread it all, but it came back with then a scene plan, a rough draft, which I looked over. I didn't have much to say about it. I said let's come up with a different scale gag, because it wanted to use a feather, and I felt like that wasn't good enough. So anyways, it gave me a few different options of what to choose, and I chose a dandelion puff barricade, but kind of tweaked it a little bit. So it gave me a revised obstacle beat, which I said that sounds good, and it went ahead then and added a 500 word plan, which is what we're looking at right here in the middle panel. So it highlighted the purpose, showcase overwhelming scale of outside world and wide-eyed wonder tone. embed educational beat on exoskeleton and ant strength via mini challenge, deliver series of light comedic scale gags, reinforce Jerry's scent tracking talent and mix of humility plus confidence. So I think that serves the purpose pretty good. It gives a location, and then it goes through the beats for the scene, the voice blend, style notes, playful narration, internal monologue, 40 and 60% split there. Um, Science moment, uh, sensory palette, the smell, sound, touch, visual, so it can really go into that detail and paint the picture good. Desired end state and links to global plans, so it pretty comprehensive. I went ahead, selected that, went to the writer agent, and asked it to write it out in about 1,500 words. So this is the scene right here that it wrote out in about 1,800 words. I read through it. Looks good, but there's a few things I want to change. It's putting the beat 3 scale gag number 1 here. If that wasn't in there, it reads fine. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this and remove those right here, beat 1, beat 2, I'm going to remove that, beat 3, remove that, beat 4, beat 5, beat 6, beat 7, beat 8, and I believe that was it. So I'm going to click out of that. And the other thing I noticed, where was that? I shouldn't have deleted that yet. Just give me 1 second here. Oh, here it was. So Jerry tried to sidestep, his rear legs tangled. Basically, it wasn't talking about, he was on the ground and then he went on the grass. So I just want to rewrite that. So I just am asking it to clarify how he got from the ground to the blade of grass. So read through this for a second. Then the gravity did its work. Cocoon and passenger began skidding down the blade. Every microscopic ridge, reaching the lid's tip. Here it is, glued into the slanted face of a nearby grass blade instead of bursting. Liquid wrapped around him like a crystal balloon. Okay, so that covers it. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that rewrite. And that should sound good now. I think that sounds good. And if we kind of want to check out the summary, we can go here, look at the key decisions. This is all written based on the actual segment itself, not the plan. So we can see key decisions, symbolism, scene summary, etc. That puts us also over our 500 free credit limit. So we got 3 scenes written out with 03. And 4 plans here, so it'll give you a good taste. I bought $6 worth, that's why I've got 5,000. So yeah, we'll continue on with the next scene. So we're back with another plan. I went ahead and just asked if they could help me plan out the next scene of the Puddle River crossing. And again, that is highlighted in our global plan right here, chapter 4. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 scenes planned out now. And the next one is going to be Friends and Foes, Lucy teaching aphid farming, Marty the Mantis misguides Jerry, tension grows. So far, the story's been going great. It's been really well put together, and I can't tell the difference between different segments, so the story flows really well. Hopefully you're getting an idea now of the flow. Basically just start chatting with the planner agent and it'll come back with some clarifying points or a review sort of, and then you can just respond back with a few of those points to clarify things or just say sounds good if it sounds good. Here it gave me a rough draft of the plan which I thought sounded good, so it added it to the plan, and that is what we're looking at right here. Again, it's pretty comprehensive, covering several different aspects. I won't touch on everything again, but that's basically the flow. I'm just going to keep repeating this process of creating a plan, going to the writer agent, asking it to write it out. For this book, I'm going to probably do around 1,500 to 2,000 words per scene / chapter. So I'll just continue that out. But a couple things I want to touch on though is a little more advanced features as you keep going and developing your story. First, we already talked about the linking. So this plan is the one that didn't get linked, so I'm just going to manually link that to the last scene, which is across the puddles and into purpose. So now that I've got that linked, this filter will work properly if I choose to filter those. But on the story tab and on the story editor, I've shown you how to edit one of these, but one of the other things, I've also showed you how to rewrite too, so you can go in here and rewrite a section. But one of the things is the summary titles. You can manually change those if you want. You just come up here to the segment analysis or the summary, and you can click this and edit it in place, change it to whatever you want. It updates over here. And what this also helps with is your table of contents when you export to like EPUB or something like that. The other thing you can do is, say you went and changed the story text, you edited it manually and changed it around, and the summary didn't align as well as you want anymore. You can click this AI button here and it will resubmit the story text to the summarizer, and it will generate a whole new summary based on the story text or the story segment. One thing on the plans, say we go to one of these plans, we can manually edit these plans. You can remove things, add things, and it makes it real simple and keeps it structured and organized. The other thing you can do is you can press the AI button, click it, and actually have a rewrite plan window pop up where you can just ask the AI to adjust this in any way, and it will do that for you. So I'm going to continue on creating this story and finish it out, and once I get it complete, I will come back and we'll go over it, and I'll show you exporting and things like that. So stay tuned. Alright, I went ahead and finished the story. These are all the plans here. I think there's 8 or 9 or so. The story, there's 8 different scenes, which are all about 2,000 words long. I went ahead and grouped those into their own chapters. I didn't show you guys that, but all you got to do is click the plus sign. then you can assign or remove or create a new chapter. Really straightforward. But I went ahead and organized each one into their own chapter. I also went ahead and, well, before I get into that, you can see here that we've used about 1,800 credits to build this story now, which isn't too bad. That's under $2. So, yeah, not too bad. I'm going to export this to a EPUB file so I can publish it. But when you do that, there's keywords that you can use in your metadata. So what I did was I went to the planner agent and made sure all the summaries were selected, which they were before, but just double check that. And then I asked, can you give me a list of keywords? It spit back these, which were all good and relevant. But I asked it to narrow it down to the top 7, which I then copy and pasted into text file. And then I asked it to give me an eye-catching back of book blurb, and it delivered. I went ahead and copied that as well into a text file, and now I'm ready to export this. So let me just double check. Okay, I'm going to go export. And then I'm going to grab the keywords, put that here. Whoops. I'm going to grab the description, put that here. And I'm not going to include the summary names, but basically what that'll do is in your table of contents, it'll add each of the summary names in here for each chapter. So it works well if you have like multiple segments under one chapter. I would include that so you have detailed navigation through your story. But for me, I have one scene under one chapter, so it doesn't really make sense to include it. So I'm just going to export this now. And let me go ahead and delete that one. I'll save this. And there we go. We've got an EPUB file. Now we can load that up into any EPUB reader. I'm just going to use this one I found online. That's a free one. We'll do Jerry the Ant. And there we go. It's loaded up into the EPUB reader. It's got my chapters here in the table of contents. We can scroll through. It's got everything listed. So I think this is good. Alright, that pretty much wraps up this demo. Again, it's pretty straightforward to use. Just kind of give it the planner agent a brain dump of your story at first. That'll give you some good global plans that you can use to really shape your story. Go ahead and define some of the characters, your world, and stuff like that. And then start planning your scenes out. Ask the writer agent to write them out, and continue that process. It really allows you to shape the story and feed exactly what you want to the AI in a structured and organized way that it can process very accurately. Just a side note, my balance is different because I've already started another story, and yeah, that's why this balance is different. So yeah, thanks for watching.